مساء الخير وأهلا وسهلا بجميع الزميلات والزملاء يلي موجودين معنا اليوم. نرحب فيكم جميعا في الويبينار السادس والأخير ضمن مشروع دليل للشبكة العربية لمدققي المعلومات AFCN من أريج. هذا المشروع بدعم من الاتحاد الأوروبي وبالتعاون مع مؤسستي سايرن وجوسا. عنوان جلستنا اليوم: كيف نتحقق من المعلومات باستخدام فيسبوك ولينكدإن. معكم أنا حكون اليوم رشا فائق، مدربة ومستشارة لدى الشبكة العربية لمدققي المعلومات، وأيضا يسعدنا أن نتحدث مع زميل وخبير في هذا الشأن، ناثان باتين. هو باحث مستقل وعضو فريق التحقيق في منصة بيلينكات. هو أيضا أستاذ مساعد في جامعة جورج تاون، حيث يقوم بتدريس برنامج الدراسات الأمنية حول التحقيقات مفتوحة المصادر عبر الإنترنت. أهلا وسهلا مجددا فيكم. الرجاء من جميع الحاضرين مشاركتنا أسمائهم والدول يلي عم يحضروا منها في الشات. رح يقوم زميلنا ناثان بعمل عرض تقديمي، وبعده سنقوم بطرح أسئلتكم جميعا خلال العرض التقديمي. أرجوكم أن تقوموا بكتابة كل الأسئلة التي في بالكم في القسم المخصص للأسئلة والأجوبة Q&A، وسأقوم إن شاء الله بعد انتهائه من العرض التقديمي باستعراض كافة الأسئلة، ونسعى أن نجاوب على كل أسئلتكم على أمل أن تكون هذه الجلسة الأخيرة لنا هذا العام مفيدة وتساعدكم في عملكم. أهلا وسهلا بك ناثان، تفضل.
Thank you, Russia, and thanks for having me. I'm very pleased to be here. That was a very nice, kind introduction. It's a bit late where I am. It's 11 p.m. here in Brisbane, so apologies if I'm a little sleepy, but I will do my best. So yeah, let me share my screen. 1 second. Okay, can you all see my browser?
نعم، نستطيع أن نشاهد. بعتقد الشاشة واضحة لجميع الحاضرين.
Awesome. Okay, so yeah, so as Russia said, I joined Bellingcat in 2015, about 6 months after they were formed. And if you're not familiar with Bellingcat, it started off as a sort of loose collective of nerds around the world who were very much interested in online research. And now it's a full-fledged NGO based in The Hague that focuses on all types of investigations, but I would say that conflict investigations are sort of our specialty. I work for the Vince Group, which is a private investigations firm in DC. And I also, as Russia said, am an adjunct at Georgetown University. And so at Georgetown, I teach a course called Hands-on Open Source Investigations for their Security Studies program. And I'm thinking that this presentation is going to be pretty similar in sort of like approach as that class, in that it's going to be a lot of live demos, and it's going to emphasize sort of hands-on, like practical tools and techniques that you can use in your research and investigations sort of right away. So that's the idea. We are going to talk mostly about Facebook and LinkedIn for this presentation. I'm going to spend a bit more time on Facebook because it's such a sort of massive platform with all different kinds of nooks and crannies. It's also used by a lot more people than LinkedIn. but for both platforms, you can kind of divide your approach to either one in terms of identifying profiles, and then once you identify a profile, reviewing those profiles. So I'm going to talk about tips for both of those. And then sprinkled throughout will be some off-platform tools and techniques. So we're going to talk about a little bit about reverse image searching and Google Dorks, which are sort of like search operators for Google. And we'll also talk a bit about facial comparison tools. And then, yeah, I suppose at the end, we'll do Q&A, but Russia said, feel free to sprinkle those in throughout the presentation. Cool. All right, let's get started. So just before we dive in, just some general tips and advice for online open source investigations, which are more typically called OSINT, open source intelligence, but it's all pretty much the same. So basically the nature of online investigations is what you're doing is you're pivoting from one piece of information to another, and you're trying to find as many breadcrumbs as possible. So for instance, you might have an email address, which will take you to a LinkedIn profile, which may take you to someone's real name, to their phone number, and you're just constantly gathering information. Depending on your assignment or the nature of your investigation, you may be looking for some sort of link in particular, or perhaps you're just trying to get your arms around what this individual or group is all about. But regardless of your goal, you're always going to be pivoting from one piece of information to another. And as you're doing that, it's imperative to keep very good notes, just so that you remember the sort of provenance of each data point. Because if you go back and you're wondering, like, why do I think that this email address is tied to this individual? You should be able to know exactly where that data came from, because any sort of inferences that are stacked on top of that, they're only as sort of valid or strong as the sort of like baseline. So if you, for instance, go from like a LinkedIn profile to a Facebook profile to a website in their bio to a Twitter profile, but there's a sort of like link in those inferences, one of those pivots was sort of like invalid or incorrect, then that sort of like destroys the whole investigation. And then two more things I would say. You can only find what's online, and some people that you're looking at are just not going to be as online as other people. So if you're running into sort of dead ends, or you're really not finding much of anything, it's very possible that it's not that your subject is sort of like a master at eluding you. It could just be the case that they're just not online, and that happens. And then one last sort of like general tip for any sort of investigation is that you should preserve your findings as you go. So as you're working on an investigation, it's really critical that you preserve relevant content as quickly as possible, because information on the internet, people like to say that it's there forever, but it really isn't. It's it can be very ephemeral. And so like a public profile one day could be private the next, and then you lose access to all of that data. Or someone could delete a post. So yeah, whether it's a screenshot or using the Wayback Machine, it's very important to preserve as you go. So those are just some sort of general tips. And now we'll get into the meat of this presentation, starting with Facebook. So investigations pertaining to Facebook. I would say that the first thing that you should do before you get started on any investigation is some of the sort of like logistical boring stuff, including creating a fresh account that's not your like personal account or your work account. Sometimes these are called sock puppet accounts. Basically, you can have fun with it and make up whatever sort of like name and persona that you want. It can be as in depth as you want or minimum. I will say that this is against Facebook's terms of service. They want you to be who you say you are on their platform, and for good reasons. And so they do make it kind of difficult for you to set up these fake accounts. And given that this is public, I won't go into sort of like tips and tricks. But yeah, once you do sort of finally establish your sock puppet account, you're going to want to let's do a little live demo. You're going to want to go into settings and basically lock down your profile to the extent that you can, in terms of how people can find you and whether your posts are public. And so this is one of my sock puppet accounts. Hello, little cute dog. And I'm already logged in. And so you want to go to settings up in this right-hand corner. And then if you do anything, you should at least go to how people find and contact you. And so once you friend requests, so who can look you up using the email address you provided? You should set this to only me so that somebody cannot find your sock puppet account, depending on whichever email you chose to use. If you use a personal email address, then you don't want your sock puppet popping up in their contacts when they log on to Facebook. And the same goes with the phone number. So the options are everyone, friends of friends, friends. But if you just put only me, that effectively locks that down. And then another toggle that I would look at is allow search engines outside of Facebook to link to your profile. So this basically means, will my profile show up in Google results? And so if you're trying to use this for sort of like passive research, you don't really want Google to link to you. And so you could just turn that off. So once you do that and you are happy with all of your settings, just to make sure, you can click the three little dots over here and click View As. And then this will show you what your profile looks like to the public. So anybody who's logged in and clicks over to your profile, this is what they'll see. And so you can see it's very minimal. And as I'm sure you know, all of this is self-reported. So I don't actually live in Cairo. I'm not actually in a complicated relationship. So the sort of like main purpose of creating a research account is that if you're doing passive research, so that's research in which you're not going to interact with your subject, and you accidentally like something of theirs, say you're just like clicking through their profile and you accidentally like a photo, it's best that it comes from Sam Jones, who lives in Cairo, with a dog profile photo than your actual real identity. especially depending on the sort of like subject of your investigation. So if you're like looking into terrorist groups or drug cartels or just literally anyone that you don't want to know, you are investigating them. This provides like another sort of like layer of protection just in case you misclick, which we all do if you do this long enough. And then separate from like adding a little bit of distance from you and the subjects of your investigation, you could develop a persona if you're not trying to do passive research necessarily, and say you want to get into a closed Facebook group. If I'm trying to get into a Facebook group of a bunch of neo-Nazis, doing that under my own name and identity is just a sure way for me to not get approved. And so, yeah, you can set up your sock puppet account and give it a sort of like a legend, a sort of like depth in history, and try to make it look like you are a member of the sort of like group that you're trying to join. And so that'll increase the chances that you're sort of admitted and like go unnoticed and can sort of like fly under the radar. Yeah. Okay. So once you have your sock puppet account created, and you have your privacy settings locked down, and you are ready to start looking for a profile, there's lots of different approaches that we could take. This first bullet, rest in peace, all the techniques. So when I first started doing investigations, I guess in 2015, Facebook was a much different place. And you could literally just have an email address or a phone number and pop it into this search bar, and the corresponding profile would come up. It was that easy. Then Cambridge Analytica happened, and Facebook made like a big pivot to privacy, and gave you a lot more ability to like control the public nature of your posts, and they took away the email search and the phone number search, as well as graph search. And so basically all the loopholes that used to exist in like the sort of like open source investigations community would find like little techniques or ways to like go from an email address to a profile. But all of those have, alas, been closed. And so we're really just left with sort of using Facebook itself and its native search, as well as Google and also some databases. So the native search, that's just the search bar right here, the search that's built into Facebook. Let's say that we're trying to find the Facebook profile of this fella. So Ali Al-Zabara, he worked for Twitter, and he was indicted and accused by the United States government of essentially selling access to Twitter users' private information to the Saudi government, specifically anonymous dissidents that the Saudis wanted to know who was behind his Twitter accounts. And so he was one of, I think, 3 people that were charged in connection to that. And so he, I believe, is actually in Saudi now. He fled the US, and he is in Saudi working for the government. So if we want to find Mr. Al-Zabara's Facebook account, we could start with a sort of just simple search for his name, and perhaps we would get lucky. So let's see. Okay, so we've got, it looks like just one person who matches that name. And if you want, here are all of the filters. So we're not looking for groups with this person's name. We're not looking for pages. We're looking at people, specifically profiles. And here are the sort of sub filters under people. They're a bit limited, honestly. So like friends, my friends, friends of friends, that's not very useful if I don't know who his friends are. City, that could be more useful, as could be education and work. The thing is that for both education and work, you're only able to filter based on places of employment or schools that have Facebook pages. So if he works for a company that doesn't have a Facebook page, like say SMAP, which is a Saudi marketing public relations firm, that doesn't appear here, so you can't sort by that, unfortunately. So let's look at this profile. The first one, the only one that actually matches the person's name. And so here we have somebody whose last post was in 2015. And just scrolling down, has a brother. That's a pretty good picture of him. So the question is this our guy? Is this the person who's wanted by the US government? So one of the things that you can do if you know what he looks like is you can compare faces, right? You can look to see, is that person, this person? And indeed, they look pretty similar, I think. And you would also want to confirm and verify sort of other biographical information. So it looks like we can figure out where he might have gone to school and some of his friends as well. But let's use some facial recognition technology. So Amazon has a free tool called Recognition with a K. And you could basically, their demo lets you upload images and compare. So here they say the reference face is this girl's head, and here are the three faces in the comparison. And then this girl is this girl is not this person. So that's it's how it works. It's quite easy. It's free. So yeah, let's use it here. So we have to isolate this photo and then save as, and I'll call it Ali 1. Oh, yep, replace it. And then for this one, call this Ali 2. And then come over to recognition and upload them. Ali 1, Ali 2. And so recognition thinks it's the same person, which, just a couple of caveats about this. It's not 100% accurate all the time. There is bias built into all facial recognition systems, and this one is not immune from that, in which most of its data set was trained on white people, on white faces. And so any non-white faces, it tends to be less accurate. So you should always remember that. And you should never just use this as the sole basis for believing that two people are the same. But it could be a sort of a quick sort of like reality check to see whether if you have a question and you like want to pursue, like, is this person actually who I think they are, then you can just quickly do that and say like, okay, well, maybe there is some basis, and then you can continue with your investigation. Okay, so it looks like this is the profile, quite possibly, of our wanted person. And so, and so we're going to stop there because we're not going to get into reviewing the profile just yet, but that's just a quick way to search for and identify a profile. It's just use Facebook's native search. It doesn't have to be more fancy than that. Okay. So we got lucky in this case. Ali apparently has a very unique name. But what if the person that you're looking for is John Smith, or like Mohammed Hamza or something, like very, very common. And so here are so many Mohammeds that live in Cairo. What would you do in this case when it's not at all clear which person that you want? And you could just keep scrolling forever, and there are so many. So this is when you could sort of winnow it down. So perhaps in Cairo, preference to AUC, American University. Is that what it's called in Cairo? Right. Yeah. And maybe they work at, where did they work? A museum. Which one? Cairo Museum. Sure. No. But yeah, so this is where filters come in handy, but even so, it's still going to be quite a lot of people in some instances. So one approach that you could do is back into their profile via first-degree connections. And so what I mean by that is, instead of looking for Mohammed Hamza specifically, you could try to find a family member or a friend of Muhammad if you have that information. And so usually this like works best if, say, you found Muhammad's profile on another account. And then what I will do is go through their friends list and find a person whose name looks sort of unique or uncommon, because that person will be easier to find. And so let me give you an example that I will come back to. So this person, Shalib Julio, this is obviously not on LinkedIn or Facebook anymore, but bear with me. This person is best known for being one of the founders of NSO Group, a spyware as a service firm based in Israel. He's no longer there anymore. He's since started a cybersecurity company of all things. So if I want to try to find this person on Facebook and say, I look for their name, I do the native search, and just nothing is coming up at all. That could mean any number of things. It could mean that Shalib doesn't have a Facebook profile. It could mean that he does, but it's under a different name. And so to see whether, I think the best shot of trying to find this person's profile is backing into it through friends and family. So just going into, like, he only follows 10 people on Twitter. And usually the people that you follow are going to be closer to you than people who follow you sometimes, because that could be anybody. But here we have the second person that they follow. It looks like a sort of like normal person. It's not necessarily a celebrity or a band or something like that. So Shahar Berg, let's see if we can find that person on Facebook. And even when I misspell it. So here is somebody with that name who lives in Tel Aviv, who has blonde hair, who could be this person. Let's take a look. So this person, their friends list is not public, but and we'll talk about this a bit more. What you can do is basically look through the people who like profile photos and other content and create a sort of proxy friends list that way. And so what I would do is if I were trying to find out if this indeed is, or if I was trying to find Shahad's profile through her profile, this would be a sort of like good start. This is the second profile that he followed on Twitter. And then if you look at his profile, they actually shared a business together, this Quando company, which is where she works as well. Okay, so backing in via first degree connections, here is an example of a Bellingcat investigation in which this took place. So in 2016, there's a terrorist attack in Berlin. And so we sought to find the Facebook profile of this person. And so we were not able to find his right away because I believe it was under a pseudonym. But we did find the profile of his brother. And then on his brother's profile, there was a video that was uploaded of this person that we were able to locate. And then from there, we built out additional profiles for this person because they all had friends lists. And for whatever reason, this guy had several profiles and they all were friends with each other. So yeah, this is a sort of real life example of sort of backing into the subject's profile through a family member. And so I don't know if any of you have experience with this, but I feel like we all have that one sort of family member, like who just is way too on Facebook and just posts so many like photos of like family gatherings and that sort of thing. That is the person that you're looking for when you're looking for your subject, who maybe doesn't even have a Facebook profile, but you can sort of glean and learn things about your subject just through the sort of like weakest link, as it were, and their social network. Okay. So native search, backing in via first degree connections, URL iteration. So what do I mean by that? So Ali Al-Zabara is the only person with this name, But John Smith, you can bet that there are quite a lot of those. And the way that Facebook creates usernames for profiles is they just iterate by one with a number after the URL. So John Smith 23, let's see if that person exists. Yeah. And so the idea here is that there's probably a John Smith 24 and a John Smith 25, etc. That's not useful. It's not a useful way of finding a profile if the person has a very common name. So John Smith, there's probably like 500 or 1,000 of those. But if your subject has a relatively uncommon name, you could iterate on it and do, say, for instance, Shaherberg.1 or Shaherberg.2. In this case, we'll come back to this in a bit later, but they've actually changed their username to Chakaberg, and that's something that we should keep in our notes to use for further searches. That's a good pivot. So let me show you an example. Sorry for the morbid content, but yeah, so this is another example of a Bellingcat investigation in which we were looking for the Facebook profile of a terrorist, one of the Paris suicide bombers. And this person's username was Billy Do Hood, but the person's actual name was Bilal Hadfi. And so what we did was basically what I just showed you, which was add .1 to Bilal Hadfi. So there's a original Bilal Hadfi, and there's a Bilal Hadfi 1 and 2 and 3. It just so happened that 1 was the person that we were looking for based on the content on their profile. But yeah, that's another way, is just to iterate using the URL. And then in addition to URL iteration, literally just Googling with identifiers is a good way to find someone's Facebook profile. It sounds very sort of like simple, but it is. Google is very good at indexing and categorizing the internet, and Facebook profiles are no exception to that. Though, as I showed you earlier, you can make it so that Google does not index your profile, which is important to know. So when I say like Googling with identifiers, that really just means John Smith, Cairo University, like that sort of thing, and then add Facebook. It's that simple. I'll get into a bit more of search syntax in the LinkedIn section, but that's pretty much it. That's what I mean by that. And then finally, databases. They're extremely powerful, especially the good ones. And I'll show you Scope Now. That's my favorite in a little bit. But these are sort of the main techniques for identifying a Facebook profile. Okay, so once you've identified a profile, next thing you're going to do is review it. So again, perhaps you have a sort of end in mind that you're looking for. Perhaps there's some sort of information in particular, or perhaps you're just trying to get a sense of who this person is. But it's not sort of anything too like too special or too complex. It's literally just click through their profile. So I will draw your attention to the About tab. This is probably one of the most important because it provides you with a lot of biographical information that you can use to pivot on and to continue your investigation. What else can you do when you're looking at a profile? You can filter by year. So here under posts, you could scroll. Or if you're trying to jump down to a particular time frame, you can do that as well. And so that's what. So that will help, especially if it's a voluminous account, because I've seen profiles of people who post several times a day, every single day for their entire time on Facebook. And so it's quite impossible to just scroll to the bottom. Another sort of thing that you are usually a question that you might have when you're looking at a profile is, when was it created? And unlike pages on Facebook, profiles don't have a sort of section that says that. And it might be under life events. They might have things that even predated when they created the profile. So that's not a very good indication of when the profile was created. But a good sort of like proxy or workaround is looking at someone's profile photos. So under photos, go to albums. Here they just have two, profile and cover. So I want to look at both of them. And usually this is the case. It's not necessarily the case, but their first profile photo, especially if their first cover photo is the same date, that's usually the earliest content that they have, and a good indication of around when the profile was created. So if not August 10th, 2012, probably somewhere around that. And it looks like their cover photo is a couple years later. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So it talked about filtering by year. You can also search profiles, which is like so nice and something that I really like that Facebook did. So all you have to do is click these three dots and click search, and then you search for something. So let's search for beach. Now work. Cool. So this is what the search results look like. And so posts you've seen, that's not a useful filter for an investigator. Most recent could be. Tagged location also could be as date as well. So those are filters that you have available to you. And so the interesting thing about this search feature is that it's not just searching on their Facebook profile, but it's also searching across Facebook for mentions of this person. So for instance, this is not Shahar, but perhaps she, so she's tagged in this profile. And this is especially useful when you have a profile that looks like this. So here we have a profile that if you scroll down, you quickly reach the bottom. So that's it. That's all that you can see on this profile. It's just these two posts. But if you search, using the search profile, you can at least get some more tags and a bit more content for this person. So instead of just having 2 posts, now we have a tag. So some of my preferred search terms are the person's own name. So Alex, in this case, I think rotting house, nothing. Birthday is often useful because it's usually tells you when their birthday is, which your date of birth might be useful in determining who someone is. And just things like work or brother or mother or friend, that sort of thing. And then you can like go to these groups where this person is posting and perhaps see more content. Perhaps Shinan has more photos or content involving Alex, and so that's a good tip that like even if the profile looks like it has basically nothing in it, you should still use the search feature to try to gather more information about the person. Okay. And let's just do one more example of finding someone's Facebook profile. So this person works for NSO Group. So there's a theme. And again, there's only one person with this name, but it doesn't look like there's much content at all. So this person is the operations research team leader at NSO. And it looks like his profile is very minimal. Super cool lion photo and some sort of like screen, but then otherwise there's nothing. There's no photos, there's no videos, no pages liked. Ooh, there are pages liked. The hacker news, so that fits with the NSO LinkedIn profile. But if we use the search feature, perhaps we can find some more content. So let's try this person's first name. It's at some place in Israel at a business. Okay. Let's try their last name. Awesome. Okay. So now we have a quite dated photo, but nonetheless, we have a tagged photo of our person, whereas we didn't have that before. And it looks like some more tags and some more friends. It's all a bit dated. But note, so Liren is tagged here. And I guess he kind of looks like his like cartoon avatar. But that's not the only one. So just going through this person. So this is the sort of like Facebook friend, like the weakest link that just like posts pictures and tags everybody. But here's Liren again, and another photo. And so this is a good sort of example of Facebook search is very weird and not complete. So you should not assume that if there are no results, that means there's no content, because I'm not quite sure why it returns the results it does. Like why it would return this tagged photo, but not the other one. But yeah, that's just something to keep in mind. And so yeah, this is another good example of using search to find more data about a person whose Facebook profile on the face of it looks pretty bare. And so this is another profile in which, or another post rather, in which he's tagged, talking about some like computer work that he did. Okay. So, while the search feature is very useful, some profiles do not have a search button. So let me see if I have an example. So here is just a random person, sorry, Sarah. Clicking on the little 3 dots, there is no search. So it's still nonetheless possible to search this profile, and I'll show you how. So if you look up here at the URL, this is the same structure across all profiles. So facebook.com/profile/Facebook user ID /search, and then here's the query. So search hack is up here, and it's searching Liren's profile. Let me show you how to find. So this is the same structure across all profiles, and so it could be applied to Sarah's as well. We just need to find, here we have Sarah Bueg.98. We need to find out what her Facebook user ID is. And so to do that, you will need to go into the source code of this profile. And so if you're on a Mac like I am, you can do Option-Command-U, or you can just right click and view page source. You can also do inspect if you want, but view page source is a bit cleaner to look at. And so it looks sort of like, yeah, it looks like a lot of gobbledygook, and for the most part, it is like 99% of this does not pertain to anything that we need to worry about. We are only looking for, again, the user ID. And so to do that, always check line wrap, because for whatever reason, Chrome, it gets a little bit messed up with the find function if you don't. And then just do find, so Command F, and then we're gonna look for, I already have it here, user ID, all one word. And then you could see in the source code, user vanity, so like what's their username, Sarah Bueg.98, and then comma, user ID, and then a string of numbers. So this is her user ID for Facebook. So we're gonna copy that. And if you want to tell if you're correct, if you grab the right string, you can do facebook.com and just put it at the end. So instead of her username being there, that's her user ID, press enter, and then there you go. So we have the right string. So going back to Liren's search, again, we're going to use the same URL structure, except switch out his user ID for Sarah's, and then we will search, I don't know, just Sarah. No. Bueg. Oh, hold on. There we go. So yeah, now we're searching Sarah's profile, even though Sarah doesn't have a search feature, just because we just know what the search URL looks like, and we could just replace the variables. So we replace the user ID, and then the search term goes there, and that's it. Let's do that for one more. So here's another just random person. Again, can't search on their profile. So let's take a look in the source code and find their user ID. So user vanity, M Hakim, and then user ID is right there. So ends in 62. We'll just replace this 62, and then we'll say Hakim. Amazing. Oh, there's still nothing. But rest assured, we are searching Mazen's profile. Is there anything? No. Birthday. There you go. So yeah, this is him posting, I guess, in another in an event. Okay. So those are the sort of like main ways that you can review a profile. Just click around everywhere. Filter by year to jump down, and then search through a profile using the search button. And if they don't have the search button, you just change the URL so that you can search. So you can, and I'm sure some of you are thinking this, that there are websites out there, like for instance, this one, where you can put in someone's Facebook username. Let's do Mark Zuckerberg. His username is, or his user ID is just the number 4. Oh, not found. This is kind of perfect because I think it's important to sort of like not rely on these third-party websites because they come, they go, they break. They're not reliable, as you can see here. And so it's much better as an investigator to just know how they work, to be able to do it yourself. And so once you know that Mark Zuckerberg's user ID is, can be found in his profile just like anyone else's, then you won't have to rely on these websites. So user ID is, again, 4. And if you want to check that that's right, pop it on the end and see if it resolves. Yeah. So yeah, easier but less reliable. There's surely other ID lookup sites out there that are currently working. We've already talked about figuring out when a profile was created. I briefly mentioned, so when a friend list is not public, which is more often than not, like I said earlier, what I like to do is basically look at the person's profile and find, it's usually a profile photo that has the most engagement. And then you could sort of like create a friends list from these. So if you want to like scrape these or copy paste them into an Excel spreadsheet or something, it's almost certainly going to be people who are friends with this person that are engaging with their profile photo and not just some randos. So you can use that as a sort of like proxy friends list and build that out that way. Another thing is that when you're looking at comments, engaging comments, quote unquote, is the default. And so you will need to change it from most relevant to all to see all the comments. And that's most useful on posts with lots of comments. So yeah. But just so you know, and so you're being exhaustive when you're looking at profiles. Okay. Let me see. And I said very early on, going back to our friend Alzabara, that some people are just not as online, or perhaps they just don't have as much content. And Ali certainly falls into that category. So he has content from 2005 through 2014, but that is pretty much it. There's no other content on his profile. And so sometimes that's just what happens. Okay, I think this is the last thing about Facebook. So I said earlier that it used to be the case that you could take an email address or a phone number and just pop into the search bar, and a profile would pop up, and you just click to it and be so easy. That doesn't exist anymore, and I said there's no way for you to go to an email address to a profile or phone number to a profile. That's not completely true. So in 2021, a data set of over 500 million Facebook users was published on the internet for anybody to download. And that's about 20% of Facebook's subscribers. And so Facebook wasn't hacked. They were scraped. So basically, the sort of like upload your contacts feature was abused, if you will. And so somebody just how when you sign up for an account and you have your contacts list, and Facebook's like, oh, all these people are on Facebook. You do want them to be your friends. They did this except with all the numbers, and they organized it by country. And so if you wanted to, you could find this data dump, which again is free. It's on the internet. And this is one way that the data that it contains is mostly phone numbers to profiles, but in some cases it does have email addresses and employment information as well, and also location. So it's a very good resource. It's unlike any other for investigators, but it is sort of like in a bit of an ethical or legal gray area. And so that's something that you have to like figure out for like both personally, but also professionally with your employer. Is this data something that you can use in the course of your investigations? Okay. Almost done with Facebook. So like I said, Facebook's like a very sprawling platform. It has like a marketplace. It's got pages, it's got groups, it's got regular profiles. So I just want to draw your attention very quickly to a couple of things with regard to pages. So let's use Neom as an example. So another sort of like good new sort of thing that Facebook did was it introduced page transparency. And so what that means is instead of this just being a sort of like black box and not knowing who's behind it, it's still kind of like that. But if you go into the about section of a page, which if you'll notice, this is different from a profile in terms of the sort of data that's available, and you click on page transparency, it gives you a lot of sort of like information that is like a bit about like behind the scenes of a profile. So for instance, unlike profiles, it does tell you when the page was created, and says what its name was. It shows you changes to the name, and it tells you the people who manage the page, where they're located. And so for Neom, they are all over the place, from New Zealand to Saudi Arabia, as you might expect, but Mexico, Brazil. It's very interesting. And so this is a useful tool, especially when you're looking at sort of when you're looking at information operations, or basically when you're looking at accounts that are purporting to be one thing that are not. So if, for instance, you're seeing this sort of like account that's like targeting Democrats in the US or Republicans in the US and trying to like whip people up. And then you see that the people who manage this page are based in, say, for instance, Russia, that could tell you that it's not actually local Americans who are running it, and that it's perhaps part of a information operation campaign. Unfortunately, you can't see exactly the profiles who are behind it, unlike groups, where on Facebook groups, they'll show you the administrators and their profiles. For pages, that information is not available. Last thing about pages, Facebook has an ads library. So you can look at all of the ads that these pages have run. Here are the filters. You can choose which platform you can look at, and also active and inactive status. So ads that are currently running and ones that I already have. Let's look at an example. So here is one that has been noted that this ad ran without a required disclaimer. So it's about social issues, elections, or politics, but they didn't include a verified paid for by disclaimer, so it was removed. So here's a neon ad that was removed, and it tells you a bit about the demographics, how much it cost for them to put it up, where the platform was. And so, yeah, this is, so that ad library is just another resource that you should know, that especially if you're looking at sort of like political pages, this would be a good resource to review. Let's see. Okay. And then, so we know how to like identify profiles and review them and look at pages, but like, why does this matter? I probably don't have to tell you all this, just given the audience, but just the sort of like applications for research on social media platforms in general, just kind of like is only limited by your imagination. But some use cases that sprung to mind based on the work that Bellingcat has done include some of these. So documentation of war crimes by eyewitnesses on the ground. I mean, you just have to look at the, civil war in Syria is like probably the most documented conflict ever up until perhaps Ukraine. Tracking drug cartels. So there's a really good Bellingcat investigation about that, where it's basically people who are showing off their goods in on Facebook for their friends. Tracking foreign fighters, that's an investigation that I did, which is also kind of like the same sort of thing, where it was like showing off for people back home and posting on Facebook. And then uncovering information operations by nation states. So this is something that Facebook is constantly doing. They release quarterly reports on basically all the takedowns that they do. And so this definitely makes for like interesting reading if you ever want to see the sort of like breadth of the types of campaigns that Facebook sees that are engaged in by all different kinds of actors, but nation states in particular. Okay, so I didn't know if we wanted to pause and just talk about Facebook and do some Q&A. Would that be possible, Russia? So I can...
في الحقيقة لدينا مجموعة جيدة من الأسئلة، لحاول يعني أنتقي منها ما يعني يخص الجزء الأول الذي تفضلت مشكورا ناثان بعرضه. بداية عنا زميلتنا ليال عم تسأل كيف يمكن استخدام معلومات فيسبوك ولينكدإن في عملنا الصحفي، وكم درجة مصداقية هذه المعلومات. أعتقد يا ليال أن ما قدمه ناثان يوضح أننا بالتأكيد يمكننا الاستفادة من هذه المعلومات، لكن نحتاج للتدقيق. ولكني سأترك الإجابة لهذا السؤال على هذا السؤال لناثان. ناثان، هل تعتقد أنه يمكننا الاعتماد كصحفيين بدرجة كبيرة على المعلومات الموجودة بفيسبوك، على مواقع كفيسبوك ولينكدإن في عملنا الصحفي؟
Yeah, I think so. And like speaking as not a journalist, but as an investigator, there's, I guess, a lot of overlap. But I think it's just like sort of any other medium in which you would just need to corroborate it and verify it. I don't think it's lesser than because it's posted on a social media platform. And I think one of the sort of use cases that I outlined was documenting like war crimes or like things, and sometimes this is like people's only voice is, you know, Facebook or YouTube or one of these platforms where they can put out into the world sort of what they are like seeing. And so yeah, I think it could be extremely useful, but it just needs to be, you know, verified and corroborated. And as journalists, if you can reach out to the person who posted the content and verify that they are who they say they are and where they are, yeah, I think it could be incredibly useful.
هناك سؤال آخر من زميلتنا عايدة، أتمنى أن يكون عم بقرأ الاسم صحيح، عايدة مصطفى سلمان، تسأل كيف يمكن التحقق من منشورات على الفيسبوك ولكنها مجهولة الهوية، يعني المنشور لا يحمل اسم صاحبه، يستخدم خاصية الإخفاء.
Yeah, so I think in that case, it does make it difficult, right? And that you have to just basically if there's information that can be independently verified regardless of who posted it, then that sort of like in an ideal circumstance, of course, we would have the sort of person tied to the content, and they could say like, yes, this is who I am and I vouch for it in this way. But in some instances that's not possible because of perhaps danger to them or their family, or the nature of the information would compromise them. So yeah, I think it's just, you have to sort of only evaluate the information that exists. So like, for instance, if somebody says that this church was bombed on this day, there are things that you can do to verify the facts of that question. If it's like a photograph, for example, that you don't necessarily need to know this person's name to be able to determine whether this church actually exists in this location, if the weather in the photograph is consistent with the weather on the day that they said it would happen, if there are any other reports of other individuals that can corroborate this, if you can look at satellite imagery to see if the church has sustained any damage. So there are things that you can do, of course, to verify information that don't depend necessarily on knowing the identity of the author. Yeah.
شكرا ناثان. هناك سؤال آخر أيضا يتعلق بكيفية التخلص من حسابات قديمة تخصنا وفقدنا السيطرة عليها وقد تتضمن معلومات قد تضر بنا. هل لديك أي نصائح في هذا الخصوص؟
For like, just so I understand the question, like personal accounts that you don't like you got locked out of your account basically.
نعم وجود على سبيل المثال أنا صحفية كان لدي حساب شخصي سابق، لم يعد لدي إمكانية للوصول له لأسباب ربما فقط كلمة السر أو كلمة المرور أو لأي سبب آخر، وأنشأت حساب آخر، لكن الحساب القديم ما زال موجود، ما زال عليه بعض المعلومات التي يعني لا أرغب أن تبقى متاحة أو أمام الآخرين لأنه يمكن أن تضر بي.
I think your only option, so like Facebook is a behemoth sort of like faceless company that you're not going to get like good customer support. I think your best option is to report the profile, as in like click like report for, I don't know if like abuse or like what the options would be, but to try to sort of like flag it to somebody through that mechanism, I think is the only option that you would have, unfortunately.
لدي سؤال أخير سأخذه فيما يخص الفيسبوك وبعدين نعود إلى العرض التقديمي والقسم الخاص بلينكدإن. زميلنا عمار عرقسوسي يسأل كيف يمكن التحقق من صاحب المنشور الأصلي؟ يعني سأحاول أن أشرح سؤالك يا عمار، أتمنى أن أكون فهمته بشكل صحيح. أحيانا هناك منشورات يتم تناقلها يعني ضمن خاصية القص واللصق، يتم تناقل بعض المنشورات ربما تتضمن معلومات. هل هناك طريقة لمعرفة هوية صاحب المنشور الأصلي، أول من نشر أو كتب عن هذا الموضوع أو هذه المعلومة؟
Yeah, there are a few different things that I would try to do, because you're right, you're always going to be looking for the sort of first instance of the content, the first video, the first photo. And sometimes it's very obvious when it's been reposted, because it will be like cropped and grainy, or there'll be like a watermark on the image. The two sort of main things that you can do are text-based searches and reverse image searches. And I'm going to talk a bit about reverse image searches in the LinkedIn portion. But when I say text-based searches, what I mean is you're literally searching for the content of the image. So if there's any text in the image at all, I would want to search that in quotes exactly. And then you want to search, or you want to filter Google by date to see if you can find other examples of that exact image. But aside from that, like that and reverse image search, and then also just getting a sense of the profile that has posted it. Just looking through their profile, do they seem like a sort of normal average person, or are they sort of constantly publishing sort of like incendiary or like meme sort of content? Yeah, so I think I would just like want to get sort of like a sense of the account itself. But reverse image search, even when it's a video, if you take basically screenshots of the video itself and search for those or the thumbnails, you can often find earlier versions of the video. But yeah, it's not easy, and that's a really good question. And it's hard to know when you've actually identified the first instance of a piece of content. But yeah, so that's a good question though.
شكرا ناثان. نحن سعداء بأسئلتكم ونتمنى أن تكون الجلسة مفيدة لكم. هي حقيقة غنية بالمعلومات نظرا لخبرة زميلنا ناثان. بيساعدنا نشر كل ما تعلمتوه خلال جلسة اليوم عبر السوشيال ميديا، لكن نرجو أن تستخدموا واسمي دليل و AFCN خلال نشركم لأي معلومات عن من هذه الجلسة. أيضا هناك استمارة تقييم للجلسة ستقوم زميلتي فاطمة بإرسالها لكم. أرجو أن يعني لا تنتهي هذه الجلسة قبل أن تشاركونا رأيكم وتقييمكم لجلسة اليوم. كما يمكنكم الحصول على المادة التعليمية حال انتهائكم من ملء التقييم مباشرة. نعود من جديد للقسم الثاني من العرض التقديمي، وهذه المرة سنركز أكثر على موقع لينكدإن. تفضل.
Thank you. Okay, so LinkedIn, if you're not familiar with it, I think this is a lot less popular in the Arab world than in the US, I would say. But it's basically a professional networking site owned by Microsoft. Some people like me just use it as like sort of like a resume, basically like an online resume. Others use it more like a traditional social media platform, where they're like publishing posts and commenting on other people's posts and joining groups and liking pages. So yeah, let's get into it. So again, before you get started, and this is even more imperative for LinkedIn than Facebook. So Facebook, I said you should probably have a sock puppet account just in case you click on someone's profile. That's also the case with LinkedIn, but on LinkedIn in particular, they have what's called LinkedIn Premium. And so whenever you see a LinkedIn profile with this little gold IN, that means that they can see the name and employer of the profiles who visit their profile. So let me show you. Let's go to LinkedIn. So here's my fake account, just very boring, Sam Jones, an accountant. So in order for, so this is this is Saud al-Qahtani, the sort of right-hand man, or used to be, to Mohammed bin Salman. I think in the West, he's probably best known for being the sort of mastermind of the Khashoggi assassination. But he's also the sort of like, or he was the sort of online enforcer for MBS, which I'm sure all of you are familiar with. This is his LinkedIn profile that I found. So this is what it looks like. He no longer has the IN, but when he did, he could see everybody who visited his profile. If you don't want someone with a LinkedIn Premium account to be able to see you, this is what you should do. Once you're logged in, click Me, go to Settings and Privacy, and then under Visibility over here on the left, you're going to click Profile Viewing Options. So it's the very first one. And so if you don't change these settings, Qahtani would have seen Sam Jones, accountant, Washington, D.C. This is what he would have seen as someone who visited his profile. If you change it to private mode, he cannot see any of that. The drawback is that you can't see who visits your profile, but as an investigator, you're probably mostly interested in the subject not knowing that you viewed their profile. So if you do anything, please change your settings to private mode. Okay. So Same thing. Remember, you can break the investigations down into two things: identifying a profile and then reviewing the profile. So Google name and identifiers, just like Facebook, is one of the best ways to identify a LinkedIn profile, just like with Facebook. They also have a native search where you can search for individuals. So you can search for, can you see me? Here I am. But you can also search for companies. So group, and then go to the company page. So I just clicked on the link, and then go to people. So about tells you a bit about the company. There's posts, there's job listings. If you click on people, you can see some of their 328 employees, including certain demographics about them as well. So 86 of them do IT, 18 went to this university, etc. So here they are. Here are NSO group friends. You'll see that a lot of them say LinkedIn member instead of their actual names. So let me find somebody who actually has their name. Here is Elad Krasny, but almost everyone else has just LinkedIn member as their name. So what do you do? If you are interested in, say, for instance, finding out who's the general counsel at NSO Group, what is this guy's name? If you click on it, nothing happens. You can't go to the profile. But if you search on Google for this person, then here's our fella, Shmuel Sunray, an amazing name. And here he is, general counsel at NSO Group. So a quick note about Google Dorks. That's just a sort of like fancy way of saying like there are certain search operators that Google recognizes that let you sort of like filter the results that they return. So there are a lot of them, but here are the three that I think are the most important. A site search is this. So site colon, whatever site you're interested in. This is telling Google, only show me links, only show me results from the website LinkedIn. So let's just show that. So 780 million results. Every single one is from LinkedIn. You can combine that with other search terms. So site, LinkedIn, Sunray, NSO. Here's our guy, Sunray. And you can do that with almost any site. If Google has indexed it, then then you can do a site search of it. So site Bellingcat.com. Let's just say Syria. Now, this is saying, show me web pages only on Bellingcat that have the term Syria in it. And so all of these somewhere will have Syria on the web page. And so when you're looking for somebody on LinkedIn, you would do something like that. You would say, so let's take this person. This is going to be a difficult one because it's just administrator. It's not just like an easy one. So let's do site linkedin.com administrator. And then here's another search syntax that you should know, or search operator rather, quotes. So this is basically when you put something in quotes, and apologies if you already know this, when you put something in quotes, you're saying, I want this exact phrase. I don't want to see web pages that have NSO on one part and then group somewhere else, or just NSO or just group. I want this exact phrase. So I'm saying, Google, show me pages that have the word administrator, that have the phrase NSO group, that are on LinkedIn. Okay. And so we have system administrator, help desk administrator, and I'll show you one more search operator to combine with the three, and that is the hyphen. So here is an example, Saud al-Qahtani, that's like, show me just that phrase. Don't show me just pages with Saud or Qahtani. Show me that whole thing. Now for this one, I added a hyphen, and the hyphen says omit this search term. So in this, I'm saying, show me all pages with Saud al-Qahtani that do not include the term Khashoggi. And so you can see that it went from 215,000 results to 158,000. So this is a way of sort of like getting rid of information that isn't relevant to you. So administrator, NSO group, that still has 6,100 results. That's too many. So we're interested in, who is it? This person. That's just an administrator. So we're going to take out system administrator. We're going to take out help desk administrator. And the hyphen has to be right up next to, so no spaces. Oof. Nope, administrative assistant. Oh, we got lucky. That was so lucky. Cool, so that's the person that we're looking for. But yeah, that's the idea, is that using Google to find these people that LinkedIn, basically, like, the more people that you are actually connected to on LinkedIn, the more profiles will be available to you. But as a sock puppet with like no connections, almost all the profiles are going to look like this. So you're going to have to, if you're interested in this person or this person, you'll have to turn to Google to try to find that that person that way. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So that's pretty much it when it comes to identifying a profile. It's literally the native search and Google Dorks. So when you're reviewing a profile, here's an example of what one looks like. Here, Shalib Julio, the NSO group co-founder, has LinkedIn Premium. So if I were using my personal account, he would know that Nathan is looking at me, but I'm using a sock puppet, so he doesn't. So up here, there's always going to be a contact info button. It's kind of small and easy to miss, but it's very important because it could have other social media accounts. It could have a website. It could have contact information. So always check contact info because you're looking for places to pivot. You're looking for more information. And so that one is something you should always look at. We're going to skip the activity section for a second and scroll down to experience. And so, yeah, this is all self-reported, which is important. None of this is sort of like independently verified. They could, anybody could sort of fabricate or lie about their experience on a regular resume, as well as an online resume. So it's important to know. But already we have lots and lots of biographical information of this person. And then under skills, basically what this is other users on LinkedIn can endorse you for various skills, whether it's web applications, entrepreneurship, startups, and then you can click on those endorsements. And these aren't necessarily people who are connected to them, like follow them, but often it is sort of coworkers or professional contacts. So yeah, this is another way to sort of like understand someone's social network. And if you're trying to, say for instance, find their Facebook profile, maybe you want to back into their profile through one of these connections or one of these endorsers. And then moving along, recommendations. These are just like what they sound like. You can like post on someone's LinkedIn profile and say that I recommend them. So it looks like they did that. Shalom did this for 3 people, including his co-founder. It's nice. Oh, and there's Shaherberg, the person that he followed second on Twitter. And then down here under interests, this is like where you can follow public figures, companies, you can join groups, schools, newsletters. And then the last thing is activity. So I would always just go to show all posts, and then you could split the activity on Facebook or LinkedIn by these 3 different buckets. So posts by Shalev, comments on other people's posts. So there you are. What are you gonna? Mabruk. And then reactions. So that's likes and the like. So yeah, that is LinkedIn in a nutshell. But again, it's all self-reported. So here's a very kind of amusing example. There's a LinkedIn profile by this analyst called David Juberg, who pretended to be like a real person, would post photos of themselves, and had a LinkedIn profile where they said they worked at the Department of Defense. And this person was quoted again and again in Russian and Ukrainian media as an expert on the war. But it turns out it was linked to a sort of like conservative figure based in the US. But yeah, this is just sort of a very dramatic example of that anything on LinkedIn is put there by the person without any sort of like verification. So don't take it at face value. And then finally, this is the last bit, y'all, I promise. Pivoting from a profile. So we've identified profiles, we've reviewed profiles, we've collected a bunch of identifiers, and now we want to find more information. So there are a bunch of different tools that will help you do this. Rocket Reach is one that's specific to LinkedIn, as is a tool called Contact Out. And Contact Out is a Chrome extension. It's this little frog right here. And so here's what it looks like. So say you are on Saud Al-Qahtani's LinkedIn profile, and you want to know what contact information is attached to it. What do you know? It's the same Gmail that he uses for everything. But yeah, this is what this looks like. And then you just pop this into your notes and use it for, say, Scope Now, which we'll talk about in a second. Let's do the same thing with Shalev. So again, you just go to their profile, click the frog, and then here is the contact information that is associated with those accounts. So I'm just going to grab that, put it over here. And then, yeah, let's just throw it into scope now while we're working. So one thing that I should note is that whenever you're on Facebook or LinkedIn or any sort of social media platform, always look at the URL because it could differ from the display name. And this is a good example. So Shalev changed his URL to Shalev Holy, and it's possible that he only uses that for LinkedIn, but it's also possible that that's a username that he uses across different platforms. So we'll find out. All right, so we now have person's name. We know that they live in Israel. We've got some contact information for them. So Scope Now is my favorite sort of like people finder tool. It's a paid tool, but I don't think it's that expensive. But I'll just give you a quick little demo. So this is what it looks like. Here's a bunch of fields that you put information into. So we're going to use Shalev as an example. Lives in Israel. Email address is this Gmail. Oops. As well as his new company, his new cybersecurity company. And then his phone number. Maybe that's not okay. And then we'll just throw his LinkedIn profile in there. And his Twitter, which he so kindly linked to. There's another possible username for us. And then you click search. And then so you could obviously add other information, including place of employment, address, even like people that are connected to him. So I'm going to let this run in the background, and then we'll come back to that. Okay. Two other things. So we're collecting usernames because people are lazy, or they are trying to like start like a sort of like a brand for themselves, like a personal brand. And so it's incredibly common for people to reuse usernames across platforms. So usernames are definitely something you should be paying attention to and collecting. And then once you have some, you can go to a tool such as this one called whatsmyname.app. And this is basically going to take the username and search for it on other platforms. So Shalavoosh. Does it exist anywhere? Oops. Looks like just on Twitter and maybe Kick as well. Shallow had that. I wonder if that's him. Let's try this one. But yeah, this is just a quick, easy way to see if the person has any profiles on other accounts. Let me choose a different one. So and then once it's done, then you just like click through to each one. And I know some of these are definitely not Bellingcat. Like I'd be surprised if we had a SoundCloud. Oh, nope, we do. Oh yeah, for the stage talks, of course. So yeah, that's a very quick way to identify other profiles. And again, just because somebody has the username Bellingcat, that does not mean that, of course, that it is affiliated. So that's something that you would have to verify as well, but it's at least a lead to check out. All right, so let's look at scope now. So this is what it looks like when the results come through. So you can see a good deal is based off of the LinkedIn profile. So here's all the work experience. Timeline, that's fine. That's just another way of looking at their LinkedIn. Okay, so we found quite a few more email addresses. There's an NSO group one, as you might imagine, a Hotmail, some more usernames, and then the social profiles. Oh, maybe a Facebook. Oh, so that means that the profile no longer exists and was probably deleted. Foursquare, is that our guy? Looks like him. Oh, there's that Facebook. So yeah, yeah, and there's his Twitter. So he did delete his Facebook profile. Good for him. So yeah, this is what there's his Instagram. This is what the results look like on Scope now. This is the sort of like very like low-hanging fruit sort of search tool where you can take a LinkedIn profile, someone's name, email address, pop it in here, and it aggregates a bunch of data all in one spot within a minute. So this is a very useful tool. Let's see. And then the last thing I'll show you is reverse image searching. So let's go to our friends. It's probably not the best example, actually. Okay, so when you're on any profile, it's possible that just like their username, they use their same profile photo in multiple places. So it's good to reverse image search those. So you need to isolate the photo so that it's not embedded in the website anymore, but it's you're looking just at the photo itself, just the file. Sometimes you can do it straight from the website, but other times you need to make it in its own window. And I just did that by just dragging it up there. And then you can right click, and I use a tool called the Fake News Debunker by Invid. It is a Chrome extension. And this is what it looks like. It's a Swiss Army knife, as it were, but one of the things it does is it automates reverse image searches. So you could do just search image with Google, and so I'm just right clicking, and then this Google lens will pop up. Click find image source, didn't find anything. Or right click And here are all the different other websites where you can reverse image search. So Bing, for example, Yandex, which is a Russian search engine. But if you click all, it'll open up all these in one go. So I doubt this is gonna work actually. Let me find. Kind of looks like them. There is a sort of famous filter unofficially that Google has implemented, as in reverse facial searches, facial recognition searches are typically not going to work for just like an average person that isn't famous or well known, but it will for celebrities and the like. Let's see. I have somebody in mind. People. What's our Sunray friend's name? Schmoyle. Oops. So let's try this fella. No. Oh, here you go. Oh, it's but yeah, so that's the gist of it. That's how reverse image searching works for the most part. And then, so yeah, when you're pivoting from a profile, you're going to be, again, looking at all the nooks and crannies, clicking all the links, and making sure that you find all of that identifying information and contact information. And then here are some tools that you can use to pivot from a LinkedIn profile. And then for any social media platform, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, you can do reverse image searches, username searches, and then Scope Now is a sort of like catch-all tool that will help you identify just about anything there is to be found on somebody online. And so that is it.
شكرا جزيلا ناثان على هذه المعلومات الغنية جدا، ومع الأسف الوقت المتبقي لدينا أقل من 10 دقائق. سأبدأ فورا بمشاركتك الأسئلة التي وردت إلينا خلال حديثك، ولكن أريد أيضا أن أذكر زميلاتي وزملائي، أرجوكم أن تقوموا بملء استمارة تقييم الجلسة لنتمكن من الاستفادة من آرائكم لجلسات قادمة. هناك الكثير من الأسئلة حول أدوات يمكن استخدامها للتحقق من المعلومات. ذكرت أنت بعض من الأدوات ناثان، لكن أرجو إن كان متاحا لك سريعا أن نعيد التذكرة ببعض الأدوات الأساسية التي يمكن توظيفها في عمليات البحث والتحقق على فيسبوك أو لينكدإن. فقط نذكرها سريعا لنذكر زميلاتنا وزملائنا.
Yeah. And I could also just drop them in. So Scope Now is the big one that I just showed that's paid. Get Contacts is another one that's just for LinkedIn. Let me go drop that in there as well. And then rocketreach.co is another one for LinkedIn as well. Oh, and then Invid is another Chrome extension. Yeah. This fake news debunker for reverse image searches. I think those are like the sort of main ones, in addition to yeah, just reverse image searching. Oh, and Amazon recognition. That last one is the facial comparison tool. I think that's all.
شكرا لك. سؤال آخر من براء يسأل: في حال كنا نتتبع شخص معين على فيسبوك أو لينكدإن ومن ثم قام بإلغاء أو إيقاف حسابه، هل هناك طريقة نستطيع منها يعني إعادة التحقق أو إعادة الوصول للحساب المحذوف؟
Almost always no, unfortunately. So only Twitter is kind of like reliably captured in the Wayback Machine, which, if you're not familiar, it's basically an archive of the internet. But Facebook and LinkedIn almost always are not captured there. And once something is deleted, it's gone forever. The only exception to that is that sometimes Google will cache search results. So let me share my screen again. So for example, LinkedIn.com, NSO group. Let's see if I can find a post. So sometimes accounts will be here still in the search results, even if you click through and it's gone. And then sometimes you can click here, these three dots, and there's like a button that says cached. Same thing with Facebook. Facebook, John Smith, I don't know, Texas. But yeah, as you can see, it's a bit rare for it to happen, but yeah, you're usually out of luck, unfortunately, if an account is deleted on Facebook or LinkedIn.
شكرا لك. سؤالي الأخير لهذا اليوم يتعلق أيضا، هناك سؤال يسأل إذا كان هناك بعض البروفايلات التي يوجد فيها خاصية البحث وبروفايلات أخرى لا نجد فيها خاصية البحث، هل هناك يعني إمكانية للبحث في بروفايلات لا تستخدم هذه الخاصية، خاصية البحث؟ وكيف يمكن أن نزيل خاصية البحث من البروفايلات الخاصة بنا؟
Yeah, so I think you're talking about this. Hold on. Let's see. So I think the person is asking about this search feature. So I'm honestly not sure. It's got to be somewhere in settings, how to change whether it's available. I actually tried to look for it before this presentation and I could not find it. So I don't know why some profiles have it available and some don't. I'm not sure, but if the question was, how do I search on a profile that doesn't have that? They just need to remember this URL where this is the user ID, this is the search term, and you find the user ID by looking at the source code. So just again, really quickly, right click, view page source, line wrap, search for user ID. This is our guy's ID. Put it here, and then any search term that you want. So homework, for example. No results, but we are searching for his profile. So I'll drop this into the link as well, or the chat rather.
شكرا جزيلا ناثان، شكرا لكل الزميلات والزملاء الذين حضروا معنا هذه الجلسة الغنية بالمعلومات والمفيدة جدا. نتمنى أن تكون أضافت لكم ولمعلوماتكم ما يفيدكم في عملكم سواء الصحفي أو في عملكم الخاص بتدقيق المعلومات. شكرا جزيلا ناثان، نتمنى أن نبقى على تواصل وأن نستفيد مستقبلا مرة أخرى من خبرتك الكبيرة في هذا المجال. شكرا جزيلا، دمتم بخير.
Thank you for having me. And if anyone has any questions, you can get in touch on Twitter, Nathan Bاتين. But yeah, thanks again. Thank you.